Book 11 of The Silent One, The Wanderer of the Realms. Introduction, Redlek and DeMortial. Written and read by James Mandolare. Count Kelder Tyrant sat on the balcony of the Imperial Palace in Wentz, looking out over the central plaza far below, as the sun set behind many towers, walls, domes, and palaces that made up the capital island of the Corallic Empire. He saw the great plaza, with the monolithic flat-topped pyramid of the Corallic Temple dominating the square. No less impressive, though, was the domed palace of the Imperial Wizards Council. The many-pillared palace had a very lifelike statue of the golden dragon of old, Gordok, carved within the dome. And opposite those impressive structures, yet another white marble palace for the bardic schools of Wentz that sought truth and justice in the law with the bardic sight that could look into the secrets of the heart and uncover only the truth. Kelder Tyrant puffed on his pipe of clay-horned goddess weed and thought about the future world he swore would replace the corrupt militant empire of Wentzia and return the world to the paradise it was before Wentzia and her ships invaded the Mandolare mainland forests and conquered the southern coast of the mainland. Wentzia had driven the Mandolare away from the southern coasts and the northern hills into the far northern forests beyond the Gascad Mountains. The divine Wentzia and her descendants then settled the mainland and built her 3 garrison cities named for her children: Aslef in the north and Count Kelder's beloved home, Tyrant Province, Geth in the east and Geth Province, and in the further west, beyond the mountains and the desolation of Aloran, Beldoon and the West Point Fortress in Beldoon Province. Along the northern border of Beldoon Province were the many forts and garrison towers and walls guarding the Dungor farmlands from raiders that roamed the vast grasslands, the wild nomads, the Tokels Othank. All these sacred lands once belonged to Kelder's Tyrant's mother's people, the Shamandala. And they will again, Kelder swore to himself, alone in his spacious and luxurious chambers in the royal palace that covered most of the island. Senate chambers and the court of Wentzia II, the Wizard Council, the Bardic Palace, and the Temple of Corlin took up half of the city, and the rest worked hard to support it. There were shops and stores and restaurants in the cobblestone streets of this island palace. There were factories and warehouses near the sea, with the imperial dockyards making and sailing ships out across the far-flung empire. But as the sun set, the sounds of the busy city were muted in the orange light of the end of another day of captivity for the son of the old Grand Duke Brander Tyrant, gone these many years, and brother of the present Grand Duke of Tyrant, Helder Tyrant. Count Kelder had been convicted and sentenced by the Star King Silenciar and Wentzia II, and doomed to be the consort of Wentzia II, a meaningless designation. If the Count could refrain from his schemes and crimes that enriched his family at the expense of the Empire, Kelder's family would be adopted into the royal imperial line upon Kelder's death. The Tyrants would not be Grand Dukes after Kelder's time, as the object of ridicule and disdain as a dark court jester for the Tyrants Wentzia II and her 2 royal brothers. Kelder Tyrant's face showed no sign of his hatred and disgust of the false promise that his family would ever be the Dukes of Tyrant Province and become related to the royal line by adoption. Heldron Tyrant, Kelder's nephew, would never be allowed to live to be in line to become Emperor of all Corallia. It was just another deceit to hold the Tyrants and the rest of the mainland royal families slaves to the obsolete and oppressive imperial royal family that steals all the gold, from the sweat of the people and tears down the sacred forests of the Mandolare to build more houses and more ships. Count Kelder was being punished for his crimes under house arrest in the most opulent royal castle in all of the empire. He had been found to have kept and used a secret Kobolos army to terrorize Tyrant Province and the desolation of Aloran, to feed the greed of the tyrants for gold and for power. Wencia II and Silenciar convicted him of using the Scepter of Janus, an ancient magical staff that was used to keep mind powers out of Tyrant land by the female members of the Tyrant family. Even the wizards did not know how Kelder Tyrant, a male, could use the female powers of this ancient, powerful staff. Finally, Kelder was accused and convicted of having used unlawful powers to cause the wounding and eventual death of Master Bard Tenor Songweaver. It was not generally known that Count Kelder was the son of his father Brander's second wife, the Shamandala princess, Euphana Tyrant, and many even suspected he was the abomination of a son between Brander and his sister, Janus Tyrant. If this second possibility were true and could be proven, Kelder would have been convicted for a crime against humanity and executed on the spot. Kelder knew he was half Shamandala, and he had the ability to see and send thoughts into the minds of others. He could also use the Scepter of Janus because of his Shamandala heritage. Kelder's mother, Euphana Tyrant, was of the Shamandala. Of this there could be no doubt. The other disgusting lie was just malicious gossip meant to shame the tyrants, and Kelder dismissed it with disgust. Since his sentencing, he had been confined in this gilded cage and forced to be a counselor to the court, a kind of dark and sad jester. No one heeded his advice, and they used him as a reverse opinion to be avoided at all cost. He was daily humiliated and abused by the sneering court. But Kelder didn't mind at all, for he had his own resources still, and the hidden ability to know what his enemies were thinking. And he could even know what secrets they held in the dark, hidden chambers of their hearts. He used this secret knowledge to subtly threaten others with hints that he knew their most terrible secrets. He also had a great secret of his own. The Scepter of Janus had been taken by the Wizard Council and kept with them under protective custody, supposedly to be returned to Heldron Tyrant should he come to be the next Duke of Tyrant. But Kelder knew the Wizard Council would never return the ancient Tyrant staff to Tyrant Province. The Staff of Janus was too powerful to be allowed to belong to anyone but the Empire's Wizard Council. The staff was a powerful leftover from the ancient wizard wars that destroyed the last worldwide civilization 5,000 years ago. But it didn't matter. Kelder Tyrant was no fool. The Wizard Council had the ancient scepter, but Kelder still held the powers of the scepter that he had secured on the Red Realm long ago, before anyone was aware of his power. And he knew how to use it. He walked away from the balcony view of the city below and followed a well-worn path through the hallways and rooms of the endless royal palace of Wentz. He climbed up and up many stairways, through the long, high-ceilinged hallways, and past many huge decorated rooms, up into the high towers. In the highest tower, he came to a hidden door, which he unlocked with a glowing red key that wasn't actually on this world's manifest reality. The red key was from the Red Realm of the realms within, and it unlocked a red tower that was only visible to Count Kelder. When the key entered the lock, the Red Tower appeared, towering up and up above the city, a direct copy of the Mage Tower that once stood at the Tyrant Castle Crichton, above Durndale, the western capital of the Tyrant's ancestral home. This was the remade Mage Tower of Ebion Denethal, who was the wizard in residence at Castle Crichton. This demented astrologer would bring the red dragon flame down on his tower and kill Kelder's father, Brander Tyrant, and Aunt Valdorta's Tyrant, in a blazing catastrophe. But now, on the Red Realm, the tower had been rebuilt, and with it the ancient scrolls and powerful objects Ebion had constructed and collected. Ebion's soul was lost in the nightshade darkness, but his power remained. Kelder had been relearning this disgraced mage's powers, and was ready to cast the perfect spell to begin the destruction of Wencia II's court, and eventually Wencia I's empire would vanish and be replaced by the Shamandala tribes that were wiped out by Wencia's Dark War 8 centuries ago. From high in his magical red tower, Kelder would use the scepter's great and ancient power to go to the Red Realm to transform himself into a red dragon. Redlek would be his name, and he would rule the Red Wasteland and gather even more power until he could release the fire demon DeMortial from Fire Lake and send the fire demon across the border between the realms to burn away the stain of Aslef and the maze, along with the Cafe of the One and Billy Dillon and the infidels, the Earth Children, and Redlek's greatest enemy, the Golden Dragon, Orphan.